Wanneroo, it was Peter Brock who caught them all napping to take the opening heat of the Shell Nationals. But when Fred Gibson ordered rain, and plenty of it, his prayers were answered in Heat 2. Galloping GTRs were long gone at the drop of the green as Scaife, Richards and Gibbs outgunned the pack in their Nissan four-wheel drives. Tony Longhurst did give them a torrid time in the BMW till KO'd by the Noise Boys. Today, 7 Sport greets you from Melbourne's Sandown Raceway and round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Mark Scaife is the series leader from teammate Richards, with Brock, Seaton, Gibbs and Ashby next on the queue. During our telecast, we'll also introduce you to the stars of the handlebars as the Shell Oil Superbike Series blasts off. There's Formula Brabham and production cars. So settle back for 2 hours of motorsport entertainment, proudly brought to you by Shell. Hello there, I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Sandown and round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And let me tell you, there's been a tremendous build-up to today's big race here at Sandown. A huge crowd in attendance, participating with the grid walk to meet the top riders and the top drivers that we'll be seeing here in action today. Quite a novel idea to invite the fans out of the stands and to meet the guys that they're going to watch in action this afternoon. Well, the guy who's going to provide some of the action for us here on 7 is Alan Moffat. And Alan, we have the Sierra show here so far.
Yes, it's looking that way, Mike, with Dick Johnson on pole and the Peter Jackson team looking extremely aggressive. The Nissans are a little bit further back on the grid today, but it's a long way to go around here at Sandown.
If you had to put your money on anyone at this stage, given the fact that the Nissans might be playing their best cards later, who would you go for?
I like Dick Johnson's chances here at the moment. He's fired up, he's ready to go. He's always liked Sandown. The car seems to be really suited to the circuit today. They've got their diff just spot on, and I've got a few bucks on Dick Johnson today.
Oh, good on you. I might get on him myself. I'll tell you what, when we left here last night, John Bowe, Dick Johnson's team partner, had pole position. But the trophy dash on Sunday morning brought a different result. John Bowe had the front row, but failed to finish when he blew an engine. And in the gallop to the flag, it was Dick Johnson who came up with a win, and that gives him pole today. Let's go down to Andy Raymond, who's with Dick.
Thanks, Mike. And Dick, John Bowe's bad luck has turned into your good luck.
It would have been nice to be 1-2 on the front row, though, but that's the way it goes. He had a little bit of a mishap this morning, which I think stretched the Conrod belt, but other than that, I think he'll be out in the race, and I think he'll do a damn good job from where he is.
It was a pretty exciting and rough and tumble 3 laps. Is it going to be like that for 2 heats today?
I reckon 20 laps is going to be taking a fair bit out of us somehow, because I think that's the sort of racing we're going to see all year.
Well, we sincerely hope so. The drivers are buckling up at the moment for heat number 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship here at Sandown. And to take a look at the grid, it's good afternoon to Mark Osler.
Dick Johnson off pole position in the Shell Sierra. Out of position 2, we'll have Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Out of position 3, his teammate Wayne Park in the second of the Sierras. Jim Richards in the first of the GTRs out of position 4, with his teammate Mark Skate out of position 5. Position 6, John Bowe, the second of the Shell Sierras. Out of position 7, Mark Gibson, another Nissan GTR. Out of 8, Thomas Mazira in the HRT Commodore. Out of position 9, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. And rounding out the 10, Larry Perkins in the Commodore VL. Position 11, 05, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Position 12, Tony Longhurst in the little BMW. 13, Neil Cropton in the Mobile 1 Commodore. 14, Alan Jones in the second BMW. And rounding out the 15, Terry Finnegan in the Foodtown Commodore.
And a tremendous atmosphere settling over a very, very big crowd here at Sandown this afternoon, and it's getting bigger all the time. We have Dick Johnson on pole position, as Marcus pointed out. We've heard from Dick. Glenn Seaton's ready to go. We're 10 away from round 2, heat 1 this afternoon. And the Sierra's looking good at Sandown. Off to the start, the 2 Nissans just light up the racetrack, and they are long gone down into turn number 1. The Sierra sat there buzzing wheels, trying to get off the mark. They couldn't do it. The 2 Nissans will lead them down to the right-left with probably a very, very short break over Dick Johnson. And yes, that's the way it is. Hard to get all that power through those fairly narrow tyres, Alan.
Sierras, admittedly, the GTRs also have the turbo problem, but with the traction of the 4-wheel drive, it just absolutely slingshots them from any position they're in.
Look at this, up on the outside, we're talking about horsepower, and that's how quick the Sierras have been here since Friday at Sandown, as Johnson, with a huge cheer coming up the crowd, sits in behind Jimmy Richards. And there's our Dunlop race cam as we come up to the inside.
Make no mistake, this Turbo Ford is still a pretty fast car, and certainly in Dick Johnson's hands, a very effective tool around Sandown.
Great shot.
As Alan said earlier in the day, Dick really loves this circuit.
Yes, the opportunity now for Dick to slingshot onto the main straight. He's got a fairly big car in front of him, and his ability to draft the Nissan on the straight. I think you'll find under brakes he'll nail him.
Well, here they come, past the start-finishing line for the first time. And Johnson, sitting in the draft of Jim Richards, pulls to the outside, and there he goes. But Richards comes back under brakes. Crowd got a huge thrill out of that. Johnson tacks in behind the Winfield Nissan. Great shots here from our Dunlop race camp. And John Bowe, in the second of the Dick Johnson cars, has made a brilliant start, keeping in mind John was the fastest man here yesterday. Car packed up this morning in the 3-lap trophy dash, blew an engine. They've repaired an engine in just over an hour, and he's back and playing rear gunner here, and now comes up the outside of Johnson. No, they're doing well. I was surprised that Dick didn't get Jim at the end of that straight. He was looking in a very good position, but the brakes on the GTR are superb, and Jim was able to hold him off. This is a tricky part of the circuit, very tricky, whistling down through the S's. A tight left-hander here. No chance for any passing in this position, but John Bowe has already replaced Dick as a challenge to Jim Richards, and we'll see how it unfolds coming up onto the straight this lap.
It's a very spirited run from John Bowe. He really has been the pace man in the opening rounds of the Shell Touring Car Championship this year. He was fastest in both sessions at Sandown in qualifying, and climbed onto a provisional pole with a blistering lap yesterday, only to lose it in the clash for cash this morning.
Here he comes, down the outside as we take the Nissan race cam, and Jimmy Richards will now try and come back under brakes, but John had that sussed out fairly well. He took him early in the straight, didn't wait till the last moment, so John Bowe of Tasmania leads heat number 1 today, round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Richards runs in second. Next is Dick Johnson and Mark Scaife in 4th place. This is where the Sierras like it, obviously, Alan, when you get them straight and you've got a long straight to play with.
Exactly, and here we have again an opportunity for the Peter Jackson team to stay in the hunt. They've got to stay close to those Nissans, take advantage of the slipstreaming they can get. Sandown's a very long circuit, 2 long straights, back and front, and if anybody gets away from you, you're out there pushing air by yourself, using up all your engine horsepower, and not getting the kind of speed that you really want.
Well, we saw the pass there with Jim Richards getting back past Dick Johnson. That shows you the gap as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge. Richards goes through, then Dick Johnson, then Mark Scaife. Glenn Seaton fairly close to that front-running 4 as they come past the pits and reel one more off. But I tell you what, and if John Bowe is going to conserve tyres, but he is getting it all to the ground now as he comes down the front straight. Fans love this, particularly the Ford fans, and Johnson starts out after Jim Richards. He'll pass him, but you'll find that Richards will have the lie to the left-hander.
Yes, there's no nasty driving there at all. It's Jim's prerogative to take the inside running. It's always force your opponent onto the outside, make him go a little extra distance, just like the runners on the relay running. You've got to take it the hard way around, and in that respect, Jim is just able to hold the Sierra off for another lap.
Well, the pace is picking up. John Bowe's just recorded a 1:14.81, which is about just under a second off his qualifying time.
This is pretty heady stuff at the top of the pack as here comes Jimmy Richards on the inside of Johnson. Johnson really needs to be where Jim is at that end of the straight, not on the outside.
No, he couldn't dare go from the outside there. That's a very tricky left-hander. It's 100-mile-an-hour plus, and certainly without the ability to drift the car through from the inside of the apex to the outside, down through the S's, you'd spin it in a flash.
Freddie Gibson and the Nissan boys are doing a terrific job with this GTR, even with its weight and power penalties. Mark Scaife's qualifying time yesterday was only 4/10 off the pole time they set here 12 months ago when the cars were in their full 600 horsepower form. So a lot of work going in on suspensions, brakes, tyres to get some more performance out of these GTRs, and they're certainly looking strong here at Sandown.
Well, the one who is making some ground up in 4th place, Glenn Seaton, in the number 30 Peter Jackson car, sits in 4th. John Bowe, I tell you what, has opened up a gap over the rest of this mob. You would think he was running on nitrous oxide. Let's have a look at the restart, or the replay of the start, actually, from our race cam sitting on top. There you'll see the power to the ground advantages of the GTR, because Glenn Seaton made a horrible start. Got gobbled up here by about 6 or 7 cars and then had to fight his way through. He's made it back up to 4th. Neil Crompton making life difficult here, but he got the run to the turn.
Well, you can't give anything away on any start, and certainly here at Sandown, where every inch onto those back straight counts, you're in trouble with a bad start.
And as we took that replay, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in this business, but you can see that Dick Johnson has been able to get ahead of Jimmy Richards in car number 1. Now, they are clearly showing their superiority here today at Sandown, and I think that Glenn Seaton would like to be part of the action here, but he would like to displace, if he could, 2 Nissans along the way. Bow leads it by 3 or 4 seconds. Johnson in second, not too far behind is Jimmy Richards, Mark Scaife. Then, of course, comes Glenn Seaton and Thomas Mazzera in the Holden Racing Team Commodore.
Well, Johnson doing nicely. He is driving it hard. We indicated earlier, Mike, that he's fired up this weekend. He knows that he's got a good car. He certainly knows the circuit, and he'll be keen to try and just get that extra little bit up this back straight, and you'll certainly see him fading to the right of your picture now. There he is, quite entitled to guard the corner at the top of the hill just in case Jim Richards comes up out of his draft, but Jim not actually close enough to do any damage at the moment. Glenn Seaton gaining on the draft up the back straight, and definitely a force to be reckoned with at the moment. He's quite capable. He's got enough laps in front of him to do exactly what Dick has done, filter his way through, weave his way through these 2 GTRs. In fact, the GTRs are running so closely that they're creating a tremendous roadblock, a snow plow in front for the air, giving Glenn Seaton quite a nice opportunity here to sneak up on their back bumper bars.
We've got a brilliant day here at Sandown. The times are quick, good crowd in here, and a good race happening for us too. John Bowe in the Shell Sierra, car number 18, leads by 5.6 seconds from Queensland's King of Swing, Dick Johnson in the 17 car, and Glenn Seaton again getting close to the tail of Mark Scaife.
Shell team are doing a fabulous job with these Sierras this year. And we take race cam on the top of Glenn Seaton's Sierra as he tries to hang on to the back of the Nissans. The Sierras and Nissans very evenly matched around Sandown.
This is all good stuff. With some great pictures from our race cam team. You can listen to the gears now as they start to work their way up the back straight, the incline up to the bridge.
6-speed gearbox, Mike. All the cars, lead cars, have got 6-speed gearboxes, and certainly plenty of cogs to choose from. And I suspect that Mark Scaife is actually pulling out of the draft to keep his engine a little cooler. Heat on a turbocharger is anathema. They absolutely hate it. The power goes down as the heat goes up. So I think Mark was just pulling out to the left there to get out of Jim's slipstream, just to keep himself a little bit cooler. Perhaps save himself for a bit of a slingshot later in the race himself, but
this could be interesting. I don't think he's close enough to get a shot at him this time down the straight, because Scaife does get off that pit turn pretty quickly. Here comes Seaton winding it up on the inside, but he'll run out of road before they get down to the next left-hander, maybe next time, but he'll have to cut a perfect lap sitting in behind Scaife this time. And Richards, as Alan has said, is starting to get away from Mark Scaife.
Well, Jimmy Richards, no stranger to Sandown. He's had some great laps around this circuit and some very substantial wins in his career. I don't think he's too concerned about where to place the steering wheel.
Mark Scaife leading this Nissan battle at the moment, also leading the championship after his success at Amaroo Park. He's on 30 points. His teammate Jim Richards on 27, Peter Brock on 24, Glenn Seaton on 21 points, and Mark Gibbs on 19. So it's very tight at the front of the grid here, and certainly in the championship battle.
Well, this is a circuit that really, the slightest mechanical advantage, the very slightest mechanical advantage, does give a team tremendous competitive edge. And we're seeing here now 4 cars running in tandem, practically the rest of the field. There's Thomas Mazzera coming through in the HRT, Holden now in picture, but virtually the rest of the field is out of this race, and it just shows the competitiveness of the lead teams. They get things down, they cut fractions of millionths of a second to get an advantage, and around a circuit like this, it just pays dividends every lap, Mike.
Well, we saw Peter Brock spring a surprise, of course, winning the opening heat at Amaroo Park. We expect a little more of Peter today. Qualified poorly back in 11th spot, and he's drifted back to about 13th in the pack.
You can never tell exactly what compound tire is going to be the flavor of the month. The tire companies work very hard to produce a tire per circuit, but certainly with races on our schedule running a fortnight, a week to a fortnight apart, it's awfully hard sometimes not to use a tire that may not be exactly what you would have liked to. And I do believe that the Holden team at the moment is hurting for tyres.
Well, Mark Scaife, of course, only 24 years of age. Career highlights. Naturally, won the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst in '91. And, of course, finished second in the Australian Touring Car Championship by Shell in '91. And, of course, leads the '92 championship on 30 points, besides being Australian Gold Star champion. So he had a lot to do, and he accomplished quite a lot last year. Has his hands full at the moment, though, as we show the Nissan GTR coming off past the pits, trailing Jimmy Richards still at this stage. That gap back to Seaton about the same, and Bowe opening up probably out to 6 points something now, seconds over Dickie Johnson.
Well, John Bowe certainly seems to have this race in hand. He's got nobody to worry him. This is maybe quite draining on the two Nissans, and also Dick Johnson worrying about his second spot.
Well, Bow's
trying to get by. He just doesn't seem to have enough steam to get up close enough to Mark Scaife to do what Dick Johnson did earlier.
No.
Bow's the only guy running in the 15s at the moment, and he's certainly opening up the lead. There's the HRT Commodore. We won't see a lot of this car this year. I think they're only scheduled to run 3 rounds, but boy, they're on the pace. I think Thomas was 1.5 seconds faster than Brock in qualifying, and the car had an unfortunate tail shaft failure this morning in the warm-up, but that won't slow them down. Thomas really enjoying his job with Holden Racing Team, and certainly showing a lot of competitiveness too.
He's up to 6th in the pack, Thomas Mazera, as he comes down to the left-hander. Pity they're not really running the entire Touring Car Championship. I mean, it is Holden's flagship, and hand-picking 3 of 8 or 9 races.
Not a big effort, really, is it? Any privateer
well, I
can
don't
do
think
that.
so,
Yeah.
particularly when you want some of the rules changed. Well, I think most of the Holden spotlight this year is certainly going to fall on Peter Brock, Neil Crompton, Terry Finnegan, some of those guys. But Thomas doing a good job. Not complaining about Thomas. He's out there driving when he's allowed to drive and when they have enough budget. But I would have thought a Holden Racing Team enterprise controlled it by Scott.
Well, you know where they like to keep their money.
Yeah, I think Tom does. I think Tom should get the message about touring cars in Australia. Getting it pretty tight up here with Dickie Johnson and Jim Richards as we take Nissan race cam.
Well, we're getting towards the stage of this heat that if Dick Johnson hasn't been nursing his tires, he's got a good set of Dunlops on there today that have been serving him well over the last 2 days. But if he starts thrashing it around a little bit, it's going to be, it could be curtains for him if Jim sneaks up there. We know how durable the 4-wheel drive gets towards the end of a race, and he's certainly not what you call a long way away from Dick at the moment.
No, he's fairly close. Great shots as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge. Single file into the right-hander. Johnson still there, looking for a 1-2. John Bowe, teammate, leading this race by 6.9 seconds. They've covered the halfway distance, plus 1 lap this time past the start-finishing line.
Well, Jim Richards starting to pile on the pressure. He's slipped into the 15s now, a 15.8 recorded there, and Bowe has jumped up into the 16s. So maybe we might be seeing the tyres starting to play a few tactics in this element.
Well, I'm sure they will, no matter what. This circuit is not all that hard on the tires up and down the main straights, obviously, but the cars still have to be thrown through these zigzag corners on the approach to each straight. They're quite demanding. They're 90-degree corners, and as careful as you try to use all the real estate on the road and make the job of the tire easier, there does come a time when you've got a fellow on your backside that you do push the car to its limit and naturally hurt the tires. But Dick Johnson holding his own here in second spot. His teammate out in front. A nice 1-2 for Shell here in the opening heat, followed by the 2 Nissan GTR Winfield cars, and then Glenn Seaton in the first of the blue Peter Jackson Sierras.
Bowe has opened the gap over the boss, 7.34 seconds on lap 11, so we're beyond half distance, and Bowe stabilising the lead at the front. The 2 Shell cars showing a lot of form now. Sierra's getting on a bit. It's 6th year in competition, and the Shell team have just taken on Ross Stone as their team manager for this year, who formerly worked for the Kevin Waldock Playscape operation. Ross is obviously doing a terrific job with the old Fords. And Tony Longhurst commented yesterday and practiced, he's never seen the Sierras handling so well. He's really impressed with the development they're getting out of these cars.
It turned out to be, or it started off to be, a pretty crook day for Dick Johnson's team, as I mentioned at the top of the show, with John Bowe again yesterday, provisional pole, as he had at Amaroo Park. They went to the trophy dash where the top 6 actually draw for starting positions. John retained his front row starting spot. He drew 2 and then of course took off. Looked like he was going to win it, and then the engine just detonated, and as a result of that, Dick Johnson went through to win and gain pole position. But Beau has done a remarkable job in this field, starting out of position number 6.
No, that is very creditable, Mike, and I think
check out that as we come back. Race score. John Beau is your race leader in the Shell Sierra. Dick Johnson runs in 2nd. Jimmy Richards is 3rd. Mark Scaife 4th. Glenn Seaton is 5th. And we'll be back at Sandown in just a sec. Down Raceway, a problem for Colin Bond, the Caltex CXT Sierra. Colin was running around about 8th in the field. Was settling into quite a good groove, but all of a sudden the car has given up the ghost and gone towards the pits on lap number 15, with approximately 5 remaining in this first heat of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Sandown. Johnson going through in car number 17. The 2 Nissan still trailing. We won't worry Dick with race cam at this stage, but Alan, you might like be able to talk us around and exactly what Dick is doing and gears and the brakes.
Right, he just slammed her down from 6th down to 5th through the S's into 4th.
Down to 2nd, I am.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. You're going to have to give me a ride here to refresh my memory. Okay, up to 3rd. Do it yourself, Med. You can talk your way through. You don't need me.
Yeah, really. There's oil everywhere, pal.
Uh-huh. Easy here on the left-hander. You had a little nudge here this morning in the trophy dash. Here we go. Nasty onto the straight. It's bumpy over the causeway.
Dick, this looks pretty good. Bowie's taken off like a scalded cat.
He must have my engine.
He must have. Someone's pulled a crook change on you this morning. He's opened up to about 6.5.
Yeah, I know. That's the gun engine I think they had for me for Simmons.
That's the one with the 8,500 RPM rev limiter on, is it?
Obviously.
Just keep going the way you are, mate. You're doing fine.
Oh, well, these old... You just got to try and keep the tyres on the thing.
Well, how much of a problem does that give you? I mean, obviously you 2 guys are running at a fair pace. Bowie out 8.5 seconds now to you, and the 2 Nissans dropping back a bit. Can you conserve tyres?
Well, you know, it's just that the Nissans are so quick out of the slow corners that they just leave you standing. It takes everything to pick them up the straight to be able to pass them.
Well, I tell you what, I notice they're getting a bit closer again, banging on your butt, so we'll let you go. You put the head down.
Well, I'm just trying to keep like another 20 laps to do after this, buddy.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you during that, but at the moment they're getting a little bit closer. Go for it.
Thanks.
BMW of Tony Longhurst, car number 25, stalking Larry Perkins. Larry, of course, is up to 7th spot. Longhurst, the best of the BMWs, in 8th posse, and still trying to change that. They've got 2 laps to go here at Sandown in the first heat, and Tony all over the tail here of Larry Perkins, and just about gets him all sized up in these very tight turns, but as soon as they hit the straight, Larry gets the grunt of that V8 going and is able to pull away from the Bimmer.
Well, every position counts here, Mike, because the finishing order of this heat is how they line up for the start of the second heat. So certainly Tony, 1 more point even, get by Larry, gives him another nice starting position for the second heat. Doesn't have to work his way all the way up from the back of the field.
And of course the Bimmer's running 20 kilos lighter here today. They obviously had a fairly good proposition put to cams that they were carrying far too much weight, and in just one show, that's called instant justice, isn't it? 20 kilos off the Bimmer.
Can I pass on this hand?
Yes, I think you should. There's our 2 Nissan GTRs, the 2 Winfield entries. Jimmy Richards, Mark Scaife. Great high shot showing them coming beneath Dunlop Bridge and then turning into the pit turn. Should get the 1 lap to go board now as they go across the strike.
John
lap.
John Bow still leading by around 8.5 seconds, so he's certainly got this race by the neck.
Mark Scaife running in 3rd spot. Jim Richards has dropped back a spot to 4th, and Glenn Seaton is 5th. That's the order, with one of the Bimmers coasting around the circuit. May well be Alan Jones. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of noise coming out of the car. He heads up the back straight now for the final time, and I'll tell you what, some folks in Tasmania who take in the 7 telecast will be delighted with this, because the next round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship is next Sunday at Simmons Plains Raceway near Launceston. And that, of course, is not too far away from where John Bowe has been brought up. So he'll have a huge Tasmanian support behind him for next week's third round of the championship.
Well, he has worked hard with the Dick Johnson team for a number of seasons, probably about 5 to my memory, and has backed up Dick on many occasions, but today he's taking the lead and showing us how to do it.
Sure is. It's good to see him come in for a win. He's really had pole position for the last 2 races, but he comes off the pit turn. Checkered flag time for John Bowe of Tasmania. He's going to do it very comfortably indeed. A 9-second break over team leader Dick Johnson in the number 17 car. Third place will go to Mark Scaife in the Nissan GTR. Fourth to Jimmy Richards. And fifth will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. Well, it looked like being a benefit for the Winfield GTRs, but they were able to be pegged back. The checkered flag goes out for John Bowe as we check them out on the Shell race score. Well done, John. John Bowe, your race winner. Dickie Johnson finishes in second spot, a 1-2 for the team. Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan third. Jimmy Richards is fourth, and Glenn Seaton in the PJ Sierra rounds out the 5. And we'll be back at Sandown in just a moment. Back here at Sandown Raceway, the drivers are preparing to gas up and go for heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. And can John Bowe do it again, Alan Moffat?
Well, he had a pretty good run.
Well, he starts off pole position after winning the opening heat. Dick Johnson in the Shell Sierra starts out at 2. Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan out of position number 3. Jim Richards out of 4 in the second of the Nissans. From 5, it's Glenn Seaton. For position number 6, Thomas Mazura. Good drive that in the opening heat. Larry Perkins in the Commodore starts out of 7. 25, Tony Longhurst in the BMW out of 8. Out of 9 is Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan. And rounding out the top 10, Peter Brock in the Mobil 1 Commodore. About 10 seconds away, heat number 2 of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Nationals from Sandown Raceway. And John Bowe, I think, has got a problem with his car. Hand came out, but he's ready to go. He gets off slowly, and as expected, Richards goes straight down the outside. The problem was, though, that Mark Scaife missed the kick and was gobbled up by a whole fleet of Commodores as they go to the bottom corner.
I'll tell you what, the 2 Shell cars put a sandwich on the front of Mark Scaife there. Closed the door very effectively as he tried to leap off the line, but his teammate Richards just did the rocket up the outside, and he leads them round for the first lap. Tremendous start once again from the Nissan GTRs.
Jim knows what it's like to get up that inside line, and he knows he wants to be onto the back straight first, and he doesn't want anything but fresh air in front of him. But here, already challenged by John Bowe.
Here comes Bowie up the outside, car number 18.
Gee, there's
watch him try and get across very quickly to the left side of the road so he doesn't leave the gap open. No, he's able to hold it, and Dick Johnson of Queensland pulls it up into the third spot. So it's fairly close. Thomas Mazura didn't get away to the best of start, and that looked like Peter Brock, who got away very well indeed. Scaife back in position number 6.
Okay, as we come up onto the right-left, going into the main straight. A challenge under brakes by Johnson. Having a go at Jim. John Bowe's already well clear.
Isn't this great stuff as we take our Nissan race cam?
And right behind Dick should be Mark Gibbs. I think I saw him there before we changed shots. He's not there. So Jim's left a little bit of a gap on the GIO car as they break at the end of the straight. But Mark Gibbs is right up there too. A new lease of life for the GIO car. And Peter Brock in 05. You can't keep him down. Mind you, this is the second heat. These tyres have already done the 20 laps in the first heat. So they'll be conscious of trying to conserve and stretch as much out of this rubber as they possibly can while still getting on with a hectic race.
Well, certainly Mark Gibbs is giving the GIO machine a good run. He's right in the slipstream behind the sister cars. This is a customer car built by Fred Gibson for Bob Forbes Corporation. And GIO, along with Windscreens O'Brien, have put a very nice team together here and running well in this second heat.
He's certainly keeping the pressure on the Nissan. Jimmy Richards. And there's Brocky, who's made the biggest comeback since the V8 Lazarus this morning. Seaton in bad shape, back in 11th spot, so he paid the penalty. And here comes the Nissan down on the inside of Brock.
Oh, definitely. Mark Gibbs is really giving it hell here in the second heat. Very aggressive.
It was just a mild little touch. I don't think maybe an overrun. We'll see at the end of this straight. So John Bowe gets away from teammate Dick Johnson. Jimmy Richards, the next one, followed by Mark Gibbs, Mark Scaife, Thomas Mazura and Peter Brock.
Yeah, Mazira's just shot past Brock too. Brock's lost 2 places, one at the beginning of the straight, one at the end of the straight.
Well, certainly the Shell Sierras have got some pace here this weekend. They look good all weekend. John Bowe had provisional pole on Saturday night. Dick Johnson did well to win the qualifying race this morning. Got him up for a nice start on the first heat. Came in second behind John Bowe, and here they are running now 1-2 in the final race.
Brock's 7th position as we pick up on Thomas Mazira. In the Holden Racing Team Commodore, they crest the hill, come down towards the S's. There's Mazira going through. And look at the little bimmer. This thing will get quicker.
Oh, hear the brakes lock.
Yes, he's got to be a little bit careful doing that to Peter Brock.
They've conserved their tyres, haven't they, Alan? Perhaps in the opening heat this morning. Think they're ready for a lash this afternoon.
Looks like a good policy. Tony Longhurst, no stranger to Sandown, and certainly knows that car like the back of his hand.
Watch this, though. Longhurst will lose out in the horsepower sweepstakes if they come down the long front straight here.
Neil Crompton.
He's tucked in with Neil Crompton looking for an inside edge, and Glenn Seaton just calming from the clouds in the blue number 30 car. So it's a fair degree of traffic here.
Well, Tony said before the race that the real hope he has at Sandown, it's a power circuit. The car is really left behind by these powerful turbos and V8s on the straights. But he did say in the second heat, when the tyres on the bigger cars were starting to go south, the BMW would come into a ton. It's looking very strong in these opening laps.
Well, he's in a good position here, and he's getting plenty of drafting. He might not have the speed on the straights that he'd like, but it's not the slowest car in the field by any stretch of the imagination, and he'll wring whatever is capable out of it.
Here they come now with Tony Longhurst trying to force away past Peter Brock. We take the race cam on Glenn Seaton Sierra as he comes up to the left-hander. He's now up to position number 10. Seaton to 10 with a lot of work still to do. It gives you an idea of the fairly tight and twisting layout here at Sandown, particularly around the top end of the circuit. Once again, as they go down to Triple M. And that gap is about the same. In fact, I think...
Yes, we've got Scapes past Mark Gibbs. Said, I think I'd like to get back up there where Jim is.
Just looking at the spread over the field. Certainly John Bowe, car number 18. Bowe extends his lead. It's now 2.7 seconds, keeping in mind he won the first heat by almost 9 seconds this morning.
It's quite incredible too. He's still dipped into the 1 minute 15-second lap times on these older tyres. So the Shell cars are really using their rubber effectively too.
Well, it shows that they've worked on a chassis package which has allowed those Dunlops to work a little bit more efficiently. They have had some bad runs in the past where the tires couldn't stand the strain they were giving them, but here today I think it's fair to say that it is a Dunlop day, and they do seem to have the Moz on the opposition.
Well, there's Dick Johnson, car number 17, and I think the Nissan is getting much closer this time. John Bowe still setting and holding that lead, but at this stage of the race, Jimmy Richards in car number 1 is starting to haul in Johnson. And Johnson sits about the same gap as probably 5 or 6 laps ago behind John Bowe.
Well, as long as he keeps his foot flat to the floor, and I don't think Dick knows any other position, he should have the horsepower based on the way we've been running all day.
It is extraordinary. Here we come. Glenn Seaton has a look down the inside of Thomas Mazira. Look at Thomas.
He locked it up.
He's out of control.
And protecting the corner. You see, he unbalanced himself, slammed on the brakes, and...
Oops, and Wayne Park or Glenn Seaton may have been in the aftermath of all that.
Nasty one. That's life in the fast lane. That was definitely Thomas getting a little bit edgy, tried to protect the corner.
Yep, he was very, very late on the brakes too, from what I saw.
And unsettled the car, locked up the rear, and he was wise to let it go. But that Armco was quite close to the circuit there in the S's. Here we go again.
Have a look at this on the replay. As Thomas has already gone. He's off to Gowings here. And it starts to use all of the racetrack. It's headed onto the grass. There's guardrail coming up. But Seaton has gone through and just got the car tally, or there may have even been some oil there.
Possible.
Have a look, because he was sideways just about the same time as Thomas.
Now, if you look here, Thomas is really hard on the brakes, and that's when the car gets out of shape, and that's when he loses it. He's just a little bit out of shape there. He's offline.
He just waited a bit too long and ran out of ground. And unfortunately, Glenn had to spin as well. That's a pity for the Peter Jackson Sierra. Here we have Longhurst again on the back straight, being chased by
Wayne Park with a look
Wayne
of it.
Park.
Wayne makes a big dive down there, but that's not really the place to even think about it.
Well, he's tried that a couple of times now. He just doesn't quite have the steam. A little BMW flying through the S's. Reef around. Accelerate up there. You can hear the distinctive engine sound of the BMW, a delightful noise. Well, I wouldn't call it a noise, delightful sound.
Brock up to 6th spot in the field. John Bowe still the leader from Dick Johnson, the two Shell Sierra teammates. And there is the gap, the visual gap, as John Bowe comes down, heading up to the left-hander at Triple M as we take our Shell race score. And that's the order on the racetrack at the moment. The two Shell Sierra boys, John Bowe and Dick Johnson, continue to lead, but right behind them you can see that Jimmy Richards is getting closer and closer. Mark Scaife runs in 4th, and 5th is Mark Gibb. Continues at Sandown, and it's getting hot at the front of the field. They're over half distance now, with Dick Johnson running in the 2nd spot, and Jimmy Richards closing all the time as we take the Nissan race cam down to the left-hander.
You can see the acceleration off that left-hander. The four-wheel drive cars just leap out of the tight corners. Dick starting to lose it. He got a little bit tight there. That's a touch. You can't blame Jim for that. Dick had the same problem that Thomas Mazzera just had. Just locked her up a bit under brakes and had to give way. That's the tires going off on him. Now your horsepower taking over, ramrodding it up the back straight, and he said, I'll have a go. If he's got enough time, yes, he can come across.
Got to get across the inside.
You know one thing for sure, Jim Richards will never hit anybody in a corner like that. He might give you a little tap in a slow corner like we just experienced, but not a high-speed corner like that at the end of the back straight. And here Dick definitely hurting. He's using the curbs everywhere. He's just losing control of the car at the pace he has to go, or the pace that Jim is forcing him to go. You'll see that Shell Sierra just slopping around a bit.
Oh,
another bounce and a flip, and this time Dick definitely went.
Yep.
Jim driving forcefully, I'd have to say, not ungentlemanly. That was life in the fast lane. Dick Johnson definitely losing control of his car. And by that I mean the tires just getting soggy on him, and he just couldn't maintain the pace that was being exerted on him by the GTR.
Well, that begs the question now, has John Bowe got enough grunt to and enough rubber to get it to the checkered flag? Here's the two Nissans choking. Johnson now back to 5th in the field. Bowe gets away up the back straight.
He does have a handsome gap, Mike, but anything can happen, and he will now have to very, very consciously save the urge through the corners.
Okay, here he comes up on the inside, Jimmy Richards. Bang, there's a touch. Dick goes around, Richards goes through. Jim is able to get back on the black stuff, and off he goes.
Dick will be a bit steamed up.
Okay, I think they're looking to pull a bit of that fender off, and maybe...
He's going to throw some tires on to take advantage, and I'm not going to go out there and drive any harder than I have to. Once they stop, they can put any tires they want onto it. Nice slipstream here up the front straight. Not quite close enough. The old Commodore still holding him off.
Going to take one big lick here under brakes as he goes through on the inside of Larry, so he moves up a spot.
He'd have difficulty matching a BMW under brakes, but Larry's got some good grunt out of the corner.
Larry didn't give it away.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. Let's have a look at a replay we've got for you. This incident with Larry Perkins, when Larry gets the tail out. There's Wayne Park in 35. He's jumped over the curb, and he's gone straight out to South Melbourne. So Park off the racetrack and rejoins again. Bowe leads now by 4.8 seconds.
So he'll be counting every lap to go now. It'll be a nightmare for him. This will be the longest 3 or 4 laps he's had for a long time, but still, by any measure, a reasonably comfortable lead from Jim Richards at the moment.
Oh, plenty of fisticuffs back here,
Yeah,
too.
if you want to put the nose up inside Larry, you've got to fight for it. He doesn't give way.
Larry can make that car 13 feet wide if he wants to. He's a tough customer. Tony's trying every which way he can to get past him.
Castrol supporting Larry Perkins, a good long-standing associate sponsor of Perkins Engineering. Helped them many a mile along the way.
He'd come out on the run down to Triple M, and once again Longhurst is just playing giant killer here today, trying to get down the inside of Larry Perkins, pick up one more spot at fairly critical points, particularly on the big tracks like Sandown and Eastern Creek. He'll be far more comfortable, I would think, at the short tracks like Winton. As they come up the back straight, there's the horsepower disadvantage that Tony Longhurst suffers. Perkins still in 7th spot.
The GTR showing a good turn of speed here. Scott Bow is some 7-8 tenths slower than the Nissans on that lap. It could be involved with traffic.
Coming across the line now, 4 laps to go for John Bowe. And you're right, they are just a little bit closer as we follow this cut and thrust between Larry and Tony Longhurst.
We've got 2 professional drivers, and neither giving any quarter. And Tony nipping in there, taking the drag while he can. He's got a pretty nice position now. I don't know. No, Larry eases away.
We told you about that gap. From 4.8 seconds Bowe leading, it's now down to 3.7. So the 2 Nissan GTRs are gaining on Bowe. He gets away from them in the straight line, both up the top.
Oh.
You wouldn't go away from this.
Tony is not throwing in the towel. He's throwing everything he has in this little bimmer. Everything he can through the tight corners. He knows he's going to lose Larry once they get onto the straights. But he is all over him on the tight stuff, maybe hoping he can push him into a mistake. Meanwhile, Wayne Park gets a better run out of the corner, and look at that.
Tony gave him the wave, said take it up the inside. Nice sporting gestures, and yet all of them driving 100-mile-an-hour plus.
As both of them got through that time, Tony felt the horsepower edge that the Holdens enjoyed going up the back straight, so he had to drop on the end of the queue that time. Now he comes out on the inside of Park, but he'll be on the wrong side of him for the next turn. 2 laps to go for race leader John Bowe in the Shell Sierra, and there you can see the 2 Nissans gaining, and he's dancing on the tyres.
It's less than 3 seconds now.
2.2.
He's counting it down to the wire, and knows that he's just got so much energy left in these tires to do just 2 more laps. He's not throwing it around cautiously through these tight ones, which is where the tires get, but Jim Richards isn't fooling around. He's throwing his around.
He's certainly gaining quickly. Bowe tries to get whatever rubber is left on it and a bit of canvas to at least give him some traction up the back straight, and he gets it too, runs away, but this is where he loses the advantage, this part of the circuit.
I'm amazed at how well these GTRs use their tyres, Alan. It's a 1,400 kilogram car, as I'm sure you're aware, and yet after 20, 30, 35 laps of hard racing, this is the car that's reducing its lap times.
Yes, well, that's the advantage of having 25% of the job being done by each tire instead of 50%. And in that respect, they do have the advantage. But credit where it's due. They form a fine team. They drive it well.
Here he comes out of the corner. Still chasing John Bowe. Crowd warming to this. The Nissan's being trumped at Sandown as Bowe goes right across the line. 1 lap to go. And there is the gap. There's John Bowe, and right behind him the 2 Nissan GTRs. Now it's fairly critical.
They're close now.
Yep. As they get through the next 2 corners and then head up the back straight. Now if he can get...
And Mark Scaife has taken 2nd place from Jim Richards.
Good of now. He's got to try and get it all down and squeeze as much as he can out of it when he's got it in a straight line.
We should give credit to the Johnson engine builders. They've had some remarkable power here this weekend. They knew they were coming to a power circuit, and they gave their drivers some good engines. So the boys back at the workshop, compliments.
And besides that, keeping in mind John Bowe blew an engine this morning, and they had to replace an engine in just over an hour, 90 minutes to be exact. And he has just had an outstanding day. And good result for the Shell Johnson team as John Bowe still leads them down to the pits for the final time. Everyone standing next to the pit wall. Bowie's been chasing one of these for ages, and today he wins this one on merit all the way. Last turn. Spectators stand in the grandstand. John Bowe. Clean sweep today for the Johnson team at Sandown. They take round number 2. Mark Scaife in the Nissan finishes in second, and third place will go to Jim Richards. And he deserves all the accolades today, John Bowe.
He did extremely well.
Let's check them out on the Shell race score. John Bowe takes race number 2, round 2 here at Sandown today. Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan places second. Jimmy Richards in the second of the Nissans third, and Mark Gibbs in the third of the Nissans places fourth. And rounding out the 5, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Back at Sandown in just a moment.
Well, the Nissan GTRs once again a dominant force in Australian touring car racing, but surprise, surprise, they're not in the winner's seat today. But in third place, Jimmy Richards, well done.
Thank you very much.
The Nissan, you said to me at Amaru you thought it might struggle a bit. Obviously the performance here today was better than you may have expected.
Well, not really. I think in the first heat I couldn't see Bowie at all in front, so he was a long way ahead. But of course our cars are a little bit easier on the tyres, and that makes it good for us in the second heat.
Okay, well done, Jimmy. Mark Scaife, second place. Well done. Now, you'd be looking pretty good for the championship now with a win at Amaru and second here.
We've only had 2. I think there's about 7 to go or something, so let's not count the chickens. But, you know, like obviously the cars were a lot better here this weekend than we thought. Being four-wheel drive, the tyres were fantastic, and in the second race we give a bit of cheek.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Well done. But in first place, John Bowe. Well done, John. 2 wins from 2 starts. I must say that's a great return to form for the Ford Sierra.
Certainly is, Mark. It's a great effort by all the guys in the Shell team. They made a very good car for me to drive today, and the Dunlop tyres were tremendous, so we've really made some inroads lately.
Well done, John. To make the presentation, Tom Smith from the Shell company.
John, it gives me great pleasure to give you this sash. Congratulations.
Tom, it gives me great pleasure to accept it. Thank you.
Great performance from the Shell team. We should have a good contest at Symonds Plains.
Today's motor racing telecast has been proudly brought to you by Shell. This has been another 7 Sport production, the network of the 1992 Barcelona Olympics.